saw some chippiness on Wednesday. Derek talked to us afterwards about it. Saw you make the guys do up downs earlier. What have you liked, and then what have you kind of been preaching to those guys?
We have to compete every day with everything they do. And they are at that point, which I'm very excited about. It's a competitive environment out here. Now, I just mentioned to the team the adversity that we face, and good plays for the offense, good plays for the defense, how we handle that, how we handle the 15th day of working against each other, and everybody's kind of getting into that place where you're just tired of it. They have to keep composure. They have to understand how to work through the highs and lows of the practice of a game. That's what camp's about. So I hope that we're learning some valuable lessons right now, that the competitive edge helps us win. A lack of composure doesn't help us win.
How will you change things up as you exit camp and get into more game prep next week?
Yeah, so tomorrow's our last big day of camp. We're going to scrimmage and get some good work in, good on good again. And then come Sunday, we'll start working. We call that our bonus week. And whatever situations we feel like need more attention, we'll hit those. We'll also start prepping for Old Dominion. And also just some unusual formations or pressures that gave us trouble during the camp from one another, from each side. So we clean some things up, put some finishing touches on some things, and then also start to prepare for Old Dominion while we're getting healthy. A few more days of just uppers or helmets and getting the guys back well. They've really worked their tails off. We got some guys that are pretty beat up, and it'll be about getting healthy as well.
What did you see in that first scrimmage, and what do you want to see in this upcoming scrimmage?
Yeah, honestly, we've got some offensive players that didn't participate in the first scrimmage. And I think it's going to be good to get those 4 or 5 guys out there, get them greased up, get them some snaps, get them some good work in the stadium. The other piece is we're going a little bit later, so we'll get in there and it'll start to get a little bit darker and get a little more used to the lighting. And we've got a couple opportunities to do that the next 2 weeks. But let's tackle a little better, let's execute a little better. Let's do things more efficiently. I think that's always what you look for in the second big scrimmage, as well as some guys continuing to improve. We've got some guys that are right on the cusp of us feeling like we can trust them and we can put them out there. So that's a big piece right now. Some of those guys that are developing, and can they be ready for week 1 to go out there and help us win?
Are you nearing a quarterback decision?
Yeah, we're getting pretty close.
When do you have to narrow that down by, do you think?
I hope over the next 3-4 days. Tomorrow will be a big test. There'll be a lot of snaps for both those guys. It's obviously something that everybody's looking at very closely each day. And both guys, to be honest, the last 2 days have done some good things. So we'll see how tomorrow goes, and then we'll round table as an offensive staff, and I'll also get the defensive staff's perspective on the quarterbacks and anybody else offensively that's in a competition for playing time or a spot.
Is that still something that, if it's close enough, you can see both of them playing this year?
Absolutely, yeah, I think so. It's hard for me not to think about one of them helping us. They both bring a lot to the table in their own way. So I could see a scenario where that's the case.
Have they both taken positive steps forward throughout camp?
Absolutely. Yeah, they sure have.
How's the offensive line looking, especially depth-wise behind some seasoned guys?
Yeah, we're young. Johnny Garrett's out for a couple days, but we're young. That second group is freshmen and redshirt freshmen for the most part.
Has there been anyone that stepped up to be that sixth guy?
I wouldn't say so right now. As we talked about last week, I think Leif's done a nice job. Johnny Dixon at times, just some inconsistency and immaturity. And then Johnny Garrett was doing some good things before the injury. And I think Brody's had a nice camp. So we've got some good candidates. I don't know that any of them are just making me say, yes, we got a sixth guy. I do think Bob's playing a little better at that guard spot. I think he's had a good 3-4 days. He's playing tougher. He's right more often. And I love the edge the O-line's playing with. I think Caden Moore and Parker Clements do a nice job leading that group.
We saw Xavier and Turner Bradshaw mix in some of the goal line stuff. And has he been making some moves this August? Do you see more from him?
We have. You know, he shows signs. There's splash plays often, but there's inconsistency often right now. So we've got to get him up to speed because his skill set says he could help us this fall. He's got to focus and eliminate some mental errors.
On the topic of drones, he's been here now. He had the full spring. Now he's gotten a lot of reps in the fall. Where do you feel like you've seen the most growth from him since he came to Virginia Tech?
I think the understanding of our offense and then seeing his confidence level rise. I don't know that you can play quarterback without being confident. And early on, it was the same way in the spring. He just, practice by practice, you saw him make a few more plays, and then you saw him get a little better, and it was the same thing this camp. There's been days he's outshined Grant. There's been days that he probably would like to have back, but he's come a long way. I'm very excited about what he can bring to our football team.
What about Wells in year 2 in this system and having a few more weapons around him in the passing game? Anything different you see from him this season?
Yeah, I tell you what, he's just throwing a very accurate ball. You talk about a guy in man-to-man coverage, which the defense has given him a bunch of it. He can place the ball where it needs to be. I said that last year. He's one of the more accurate guys I've been around. I think he's making faster decisions. When I stand behind and watch the offense, I realize the guy's coming open. He's seeing it, sooner, and he's able to kind of, throw it in a more timely fashion.
Still a couple weeks left before an actual game. Do you get the sense that guys are getting a little antsy to face an opponent other than themselves?
Absolutely. That's part of it. I think if you have a good camp, you ought to get to, where guys are just tired of banging on each other. It just gets to a point. But go ahead. That's why I think tomorrow, I think going out there again and go ones on ones and twos on twos and let them get after it again. They have to learn that. They got to learn to be able to compete like they are and keep composure and not have foolish penalties and, keep the main thing the main thing.
One or two more guys. What are you seeing at that Will linebacker spot? I know we talked about Kelly Lawson a lot. It looked like McDonald was working in there some today as well.
Yeah, I think right now, I think Tisdale, I think Kelly, and I think Keller, they've separated themselves a little bit from the others. Tisdale, to me, has probably played his best football since we've been here. He's in great shape. He's lean. He's faster. Kelly's learning how to play in the box and reads. And then J.K.'s just playing faster. He's always had great abilities, but his mind's kind of slowed him down, and he's finally in a pretty good place. And I think those other guys, Will Johnson, McDonald, there's some guys, Matt Johnson, there's guys there that have capabilities. And they got a chance to be a rotational guy. But right now, those three are kind of the bell cows. And they're playing all of them, particularly Tisdale. He can bounce back and forth. McDonald bounces back and forth. JK's bounce back and forth. So, that helps add some depth there.
What have you liked from what you've seen from Tisdale specifically over the past couple of weeks? I know back in media day you mentioned kind of Keller and McDonald. It seems like Tisdale's come along a lot.
Yeah, he's had a good 4, 5, 6 practices. He's playing fast and confident, and he's slipping blocks instead of tying up. He's just showing a little wiggle and dropping a shoulder and getting by a guy. He's just flashing a lot more often right now. He was a guy that was generally in the right place, but I think too often he'd be high and he'd get ragdolled a little bit, and he's playing low or he's playing with better leverage. He's getting by people a little better.
It's not often we ask you about kickers. We saw Kyle kick one from about 50, 53 today. What's your how comfortable do you feel with those guys right now? And
First of all, we got a really good competition there. Those two guys, are battling this thing out. The percentages are close on long field goals, on extra points, just overall, it's close. And timing's good with both of them. That's one battle that may go into next week. We can continue to chart those guys and get some pressure kicks. But you know, I mean, he's kicked a 65 in practice. You know, it's how often do I see him do it that makes you feel like you do it in the game.